Don, are you in? Can you hear everything?
I hear you.
Okay, all right, good deal. All right, for everybody that doesn't know, Alderman Hartman's out of pocket at the moment, but is zoomed in here on the TV.
Warm in here, isn't it?
Well, it's kicking over here, man. I felt it big time.
You know why it's so warm?
Why?
It's gas heat.
There you go.
That's the reason.
You like it to got to be pumped up, don't you?
All right, we're going to start the work session for January 7th, 2021. I'm going to ask Alderman Bryant to say an opening prayer, and then we'll get into our agenda.
Let's pray. Well, we thank you for this day, and thank you for coming back to do the city's business, allowing us to come back. God, you pray you be with us as a community and all the communities across the nation. God, just pray you be with us fighting this virus, God. Well, we know that with your help, we're going to win over this virus before it's over with. God, we just pray that you be with each one that's here. Pray, God, you be with all of our community, our ones that might stand in need, the leaders in our community, the first responders, health care workers, teachers, everybody on the front line of dealing with this situation. God, just pray you protect them and be with them. Lord, we just thank you for the things you've done for us. Thank you for the things that you continue to do for us. And thank you, God, for a country that we can live in, that we can say that we have freedom. Probably the most free country in the world. God, we just thank you for it. Thank you, God, for this food been prepared this morning. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We'll start under opening comments. I may review the December 3rd, 2020 work session minutes. Anybody have any corrections, additions, deletions? Now we'll enter those into record. On item B, set date for 2021 strategic planning session. I think, Mr. Collins, was there a proposed date you had?
Yes, sir, February 22nd.
If everybody would, you don't have to check our calendars now, but if everybody checked that, and later on today, get back with Pam and let them know if that date's good. If not, we'll set another date that we all can be together. We'll go into department reports, Public Works, Eddie Plunkett.
Thank you, Mayor. We're in the process. I told the engineers on Laurel Drive, hopefully first of next month, middle of the month, we'll have that project out for bid. I've met with the contractors doing the paving work. It was discussed about doing a little more milling and on Eldad and Liberty Roads where the road is settling, what the situation would be, and they said we could mill it out 6 inches or so, put base back in it and pave on top of it would be good. He do the same thing, and he just left Nashville paving up there, and he said that's the way they done up there. That's all I got. Do you want me to address the knuckle boom?
Yes.
We have a truck that's down. It's been over a month and I still haven't got the repair cost for it. We talked about buying a new truck, talked about leasing a new truck, leased the owner of a new truck, and from my understanding from coming out of the finance, it was recommended that we purchase a new truck. The price would be $152,831 is what is quoted. I think I can beat that price. It was approved to purchase a truck up to that amount. We can lease a truck on a 3-year lease deal for 6.9%. We could finance it for 3 years, and it's 3.4%. Or a lease to own is 3%. And if I understood correct, we decided to go ahead and buy the truck up to the $152,000.
We did that. And for clarification for everybody here or that's watching, you have 2 knuckle boom trucks.
Yes.
In the years, dates on those trucks. One's an 89, and the one that's down, what year's the one that's 89?
The one that's down is a 98.
98.
Yes, sir.
So you're talking.
And you're having trouble on parts and everything too, right? Finding
Yes, sir.
everything to get it fixed.
Yes, sir.
Well, actually, I believe we really got 3 trucks, right?
We got 3.
2 of them's real old.
Right.
2 of them's really old, and
The oldest truck we got is the most dependable truck we got.
so.
But it's, it's old, and you never know. It could go down any minute, and it may last 10 more years. You never know.
But you normally have 2 running, right?
Yes, sir. We run 2 every day.
Except for now. Or are you running 2
Yes, sir.
now?
We're running the oldest truck we got. We're running it right now also.
Okay. All right.
I know in finance, we spoke about 3 different ways to do it, the lease, and like I said, I just got to thinking after we left the other day, I know we talked about bank side too, could get probably a better bid if we let all the local banks bid, we could get better than that 3.0, but thinking about it, with it being 150,000, I'm almost in the opinion, let's just go ahead and write a check for it. I think, why give anybody interest if we got it in the bank and save that interest money? I know when we did the police cars, that was a lot more money, and we did a loan for that, and I think that was the way to go. On a smaller loan, I think we ought to go ahead and just pull it out of our capital fund and pay for it.
Yeah,
Leasing our own, what was the money factor on that? If you bought it if we leased it 2 years and bought it after?
Eddie, explain the lease, what they talked about how you got it for a year and you didn't make a payment for a year.
The payments were in arrears. You could buy it this year. Well, you didn't buy it. You leased it this year. You didn't make no payment until the end of the year. If you didn't want to keep the truck or something was wrong with it or whatever, they would take the truck back for a fee. I don't know if we ever discussed the fee, what it would cost to turn the
Like a
truck.
disposable fee?
Yes, sir.
What was the residual factor after that first year?
I can't answer that one. I don't really know.
That's his expertise, he knows.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying there is a residual factor after a lease, and that's where it's beneficial to go and lease it for 3 years, but sometimes we'll do a one-time payment for 3 years, and it's cheaper to do that. Then after that, just go ahead and if the money's there in 3 years, go ahead and write a check for it. If the money factor's low, I don't know what the money factor is on it.
You speaking over my head on that. I just know what the interest rates were, and what Scott had to figure the payments up on it, on the 3-year lease deal. That's about all I know about it.
I'm assuming there's going to be a fee for that too. And all
There
that.
normally is not a fee for that 3-year lease. It's going to be a guaranteed residual, but if the money factor's low, like right now, I don't know what year you're looking at. If you're looking at 20 or 21, but if they've got specials out there and you can beat the bids, if the money factor is 0.009, that's a whole lot cheaper rate than it is a buy rate. If you're interest loan, then you can turn around and buy it for the residual factor. It's just cheaper that way to get it up front and save money at the end. And it's a guaranteed residual, but they won't change that residual.
I believe the 21 is what you had in front of us the other day on the
Unless,
paperwork.
if we could get a demo, if a 20-model demo was out there, that, to fit our needs, I'd be game for that. I was going to look at all options. I just need a truck.
You don't care how it's financial, you do a truck, don't you?
I personally, I think we'll pay for it from hearing what money, interest rate was drawing on the money we got in the bank. Well, I pay interest.
And it's,
On that kind of money.
right, and I'm just saying, heck, we've got it in the bank, don't give anybody any interest, any money in fees, just pay for it, be done. We got the money in the fund.
And another too, I guess an advantage of that would be that we wouldn't be going, we'd have to go to a bid process to buy this truck anyway. Right?
Well, no, so we can go Sourcewell, state contract, one of the two.
They do have it on state contract.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sourcewell has been coming in cheaper than state contracts on other vehicles.
So, but if we finance it through a bank or whatever, we do have to go to a bid process, you know, with those banks.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, the question was asked to me a couple of days ago about this, well, what does this do to our capital fund? You know, but it doesn't do a whole lot, really. I mean, this is a lot of money, but as far as keeping the capital fund up to where it should be, we can transfer out of general fund as a capital fund. Well, you know, we do that every year anyway.
Yes, sir.
Doing what, $250,000 a year?
Yes, sir.
And we have done as much as 500,000 one lick. So it's not going to hurt capital fund. We can build that capital fund back up. You know, bottom line is the cheapest, the very cheapest we can get the truck, and to me, is just pay for it. Just pay for it. Don't have any fees or anything. Just because, you know, the lease is not a bad idea in some ways, but here's the deal about that lease. Okay, there's no way that you're gonna get to use the truck for a year and turn it back in and not pay something. That ain't gonna happen.
No, it's just a
Yeah, they're gonna charge a hefty fee. And also, when you begin making those yearly lease payments, they're gonna be way ahead. They're gonna be way ahead of you on how much you're gonna be paying. So if you pay $40,000 for 1 year's lease or whatever it happens to be, decide to turn that truck back in or whatever, you might be able to get another truck, I don't know. But they're gonna be ahead of you either way. I mean, they're gonna stay ahead of you. I mean, and the value, if you turn that truck back in, the value is, they're gonna be able to get more out of it to offset whatever it was that we'd have to pay them. So I don't have any problem just buying the truck and moving on. I don't have a problem with that. But we've got another person on that committee we need to hear from too, on our Total Works Committee. Because we dealt with this for about 2 or 3 months now on the small myself. So I'd like to hear from her on this too.
Well, coming to the meeting the other night and having read on leases, and I didn't know anything about the fees that you had to pay when you turned it in, and listening to the banker here and the money that we have available, I'm in agreement to take it out of capital.
Okay. Well, we're fortunate that we've got some folks on the board that really knows quite a bit about finances and knows about leases. We've got a new one on the board that knows about leases and a lot of different things, so we're fortunate. I'm willing to take their advice on the financing part of it, because I don't know anything about the financing part. Just, I'd say we're moving on to the board Tuesday night, and
Second.
with a recommendation that we just buy the truck.
Everybody else okay with that?
Yes.
I do have a question, Mayor. Also, if we purchase this through the bid law or Sourcewell, this will also put the truck in use a lot quicker, as long as we don't have to bid it out. That's a long process, and so I think if we get the truck on the road quicker. Also, Eddie, the knuckle boom truck that you have now, is that something that we can keep and use, just remove the boom that's messed up? I mean, would we still have the truck to use in your fleet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, this should be Tuesday night. This should be a max of whatever this number is on here. It's going to go down. This number's going to go down probably, but whatever this number is here should probably be what we vote on not spending
Not
over.
to exceed 152.
Yeah,
152, 831, 31.
Yeah, that's what it should be.
Okay.
All right.
And
Thank
then,
you.
real quick, so Markham was paved,
Yes, sir.
and then what about
Brookmead.
Brook Beach?
It's complete,
Okay.
and Swanson.
Okay. Well, Swanson, there's still some more paving to do, correct? Or have they gotten all that too?
It's
Okay.
complete.
Okay.
The contractor is gonna move back in when the weather's feasible, temperature-wise, and try to do the rest of it.
And now that paving, I've been over that paving 2 or 3 times because this is a different company. this company is doing a really good job paving.
Correct.
Really good job. They're working good around the sewer manholes, they're working good around the valve, as far as I can tell, just driving over it. And they're working good. And if you go down Swansea, down in that dip where they pave, they actually, because we didn't have a situation where we could get in there and do any curbing before this paving started. But where there's been some problems out there with a house or two, they have actually, they made that curbing out of that hot mix. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. Now, it's a whole lot better than cold mix. It's not as good as concrete, but it is hot mix. And it will help a whole lot for quite a while.
They done that by hand?
They did do it by hand.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's not ideal now. It's not like a concrete would be, but it is, it's better than what we had, put it that way. A lot better. And if they're not doing a good job, otherwise, I don't know. I just drove over. It's all I've done.
They've been easy to work with.
Yeah, I think they're a good company. I think they're a really good company.
I called them after our meeting the other day, and they came down. We rode all of them and looked at them, and anything I suggest they're game for.
Anybody have any other questions?
I'd just like to ask that, and I talked to Mr. Collins, if he has anything to it. There's one or two driveway extensions that need looked at, because one lady in particular driveway was left about 3 or 4 inches high, and she'd like that looked at before this company leaves, please.
If you just give me those addresses, we'll look at them.
Scott has them.
Okay.
Might ask, Britt, don't mind. Have y'all had any problems with them as far as around the manholes and valves and all of that? Took care of it pretty good.
No, sir, everything's been pretty good so far. They asked for extensions, we got those put on there. And it's back to the driveways that Alderman Small had brought up, that they thought we had cracked under the building machine where Ms. Small's talking about is, they busted into the driveways too, so that's over on Markham Drive. But now, I know we gotta go back and fix, Miss Harmony's driveway, but that's on us with our contract.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Plunkett.
Thank you.
We go to the police department, Chief Howell.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just a reminder from Police Department that Martin Luther King March will be January 18th. And to touch on police and fire at the same time, right now, we're just starting a new year, and we are working on our 2021 budget. We met this week, and we've started that process for both departments.
We'll speak a little bit about the vaccination, what's going on at the health department.
Yesterday was they did 100 vaccinations at the fairground. Went very smooth. They're doing it by appointment only now. You have to contact the health department to get a date and time. Right now, if I recall, it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. If they have vaccine, excuse me. They're having to allow someone out of Nashville to order it. It's dependent on when it's ordered and when they get it. And it's not guaranteed they'll be there every day at this point in time. There will be a point in time where they will have a steady influx of vaccine. But right now, it's kind of hit and miss.
And then people can also just go to the health department itself for the self-test on.
That is correct.
For the COVID.
Yes, that is correct. And they are testing on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the fairground. I think from 9 to 11.
Yes. You have any other questions in regards to police? We go on to fire.
Fire, as I said a moment ago, we're operating on our budgets. We're working to get those together for the board. We always start a little early and give us a couple months to go through them. We did do our line items this week, working on it on both departments. That's all I have as far as our operations.
So we have in here on this agenda about discussion of fire chief position and strategic planning. Mr. Collins?
Yes, in the Fire and Police Committee meeting earlier in the week, they want to analyze some more information to get our structure and also have some information to present at strategic planning recommendations of moving forward with the department and the operations prior to hiring a new police chief.
Or fire chief?
Big say, you want me to leave now? What's that this week?
Freudian slip. Anybody have any other questions on the fire?
what type of further information are you analyzing? I mean,
Well, I know in committee, we've discussed, there needs to be some restructuring done within the fire department. Also, we've discussed, training, for the ones that are there now, possibly promoting from within, just things that we'd like to wait another month or two till we go to strategic planning and really discuss it with everybody.
And plus, one of the major items at the strategic planning has been this recommendation before about having to hire additional firemen. One, to correct the overtime issue, and also just to level out the shifts and get back on to what's been recommended.
Don't want to be in the same situation we're in with the last fire chief. Don't want them in there in the unknown, trying to get everybody up to par with training, as Chief Howell was saying, and also, I mean, there's no, right now we're waiting on, I mean, if we can find the right person, and I think it could be somebody within the department. There's a lot of well-trained guys there.
Yeah, we didn't see any hurry. Right now, things are going really well in police and fire, and we just didn't see rushing into anything right now.
Well, I'm sure they're going well. They are, but now, with all this traffic control going on, I know the police has got their hands full, so, you know, I don't have any problem waiting until we have a thorough discussion at all till February 27th, but we need to take care of this deal, get it out of the way, move on. I'd say immediately after February 27th, we should have a plan that we send Richard and his employees on back down to the police department, let them do policing.
Yeah, because in community, we're not wanting this to go on forever. We know that this is a lot on Richard. But just for the moment, I think there's a few things that need to be done before we move forward.
Well, that gives your committee another month, you might say, to get some stuff to bring to us, you know. So I'm good with that.
yeah, because we've been doing this for over 6 months now, and I would think in that length of time, if everything's going well from what we are reported, that, you know, things are going well at the fire department. The training has been ongoing. I mean, we haven't put training on hold. I mean, even in the absence of a fire chief, training has gone on, so I don't see that the department is behind. And us delaying this fire chief is, I think, you know, we're getting behind. We're getting our fire department behind.
I disagree with that totally. I disagree. That fire department is not behind, and that's a reflection to me. And I'm not going to stand here in front of this board and I'm going to accept that. That department is not behind.
It's not a reflection of you.
Yes, it is. I've been there since July.
Behind is that we do not have a fire chief leading our fire department is how I look at it being behind. It has no reflection of the job that you're doing. I just think we need a fire chief in place and not a police chief running the fire department.
Well, on Richard's defense, and I think a lot of people agree on this, a fire chief does not fight the fires. Fire chiefs are to look after his guys and the well-being of their guys. With Richard Howell and these other two guys behind him, and they're helping each other out. And I agree, we need to move forward. But I think right now there's a lot of training. Because of COVID, a lot of things have stopped, and Chief Howell have done the best they can. The firemen are doing the best they can. They're working hand in hand together. I understand the citizens and the community, everybody's ready to move on with the fire chief, but I disagree with just rushing and saying, let's get somebody back in there. It doesn't know any of their demeanor, doesn't know anything about what's going on within the community, and here we go again. So I think another month or two, I think we'll be good, but right now, let's let Richard and continue doing what they're doing now, and I think we'll move forward on the next one, the 27th, I guess, of next month. But everything is moving on as well.
All right. Anything else on police?
No, sir.
Or fire? No.
Thank you.
We'll go to the Parks and Rec. We have Ms. Tina Freeman asked to come up and speak, but before you come up, Tina, Scott, I want you to explain, because the board is not aware, you had a Parks and Rec meeting on Monday, and then you had a sign come down as you enter the park on Tuesday. So will you give an explanation before I have Ms. Freeman come up and air her concerns?
Yes, sir, Mayor, thank you. The committee and staff of Parks and Recreation are working hand in hand on overall operation and maintenance plans. And one of the issues has been the proposed basketball court is going to be moved from Don Davidson Park over to Kiwanis Park. It's more beneficial to rebuild the court there than it is to put it next to the pond where we'd be fishing balls out of the pond and several other issues over there. So the one sign in question has a basketball court. Well, we don't have a basketball court there. We have a goal stuck up in the middle of a grassy field next to a pond. So it's issues like that that we're wanting to systematically address. And a couple of safety issues that was brought forth both by public entity partners and the general public about steel posts here and there and barbed wire. Items like that we're taking care of. And the committee invited several people to come in and talk, and we're all trying to work together as a community to make the necessary improvements to support the ones that we can, and just communicate and coordinate to make a great recreational experience for everybody.
And the trails are not being closed.
The pond is not being drained, the trail is not being closed.
The reading trail is not being taken up.
Sir?
The reading trail is not being taken up.
No.
Okay. Ms.
I'm
Freeman,
going to interrupt. It's been vandalized. Somebody explain it. Those pages were not there yesterday. The story trail is gone. You can't read that book.
Scott, you know.
I was over there. Matter of fact, Miss Brown, we had a good, productive conversation while I was over there. Some of the pages have been removed, but it's my understanding we've not been the one to remove them. There was one or two segments that had exposed wooden screws sticking out that was a safety hazard. But as far as removing pages and the like,
You can't read the book.
I would probably say it's probably weather, because I walked through there personally myself, when was it, the day, I've been there a couple times, but one day, there was a lot of weather things there. They were not properly put in place well. Nobody went there and touched them and flipped any pages. There's only one page with a laminated piece of paper on top, but some of them very smeary. There has been a lot of, but it was raining. I mean, these things, and nothing's wrong with that trail. The thing was, I guess, what we were trying to say is, we didn't touch them. I don't think it says didn't touch them, but saying that is, there's a proper, they weren't put up properly. And I don't know where the money came from to put it up. I know it was said on Facebook that the city paid for it. Scott, is that true? Did the city pay for these things that you put up?
we have paid for some, and then volunteers have raised funds for others.
And I guess me saying that is, who authorized the city to pay for the storybook trail when I think Mr. Freeman was getting donations from people, and I don't know where that money went to, so.
I authorized the laminating of the pages at the Parks and Recreation Department. As far as the wood materials, I cannot readily answer that. I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. Ms. Freeman? Oh, pass them out, sure. Each one, you can get each one.
Here you go. You gave me an extra one. Oh,
Thank you.
Mind if I take my mask off?
Oh, sure, that's fine.
Okay. And please excuse me, I'm not used to public speaking, nor do I care for it. But felt like today warranted that. First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak today. Can everyone hear me? I know I'm
You may have to
soft-spoken.
speak up a little, you're soft-spoken, you may have to
Yes,
speak up a
I-
little bit more.
Can
Or
everyone hear me?
just pull the microphone a little bit closer to you, yeah, there you go.
Okay. Thank you for letting me be here. Okay, and I'm here for myself and other volunteers on behalf of Trails for Kids, not necessarily Kevin Freeman, who is my husband. Okay, let's be clear. Anyway, let me just read this to you. I'm a citizen, a city resident, volunteer, business owner with the city of Fayetteville. I've never had an interest in politics aside from trying to be an educated voter. With that being said, I've been very disappointed in the way that I've witnessed in recent months in regards to how recreation aldermen have treated local volunteers, pursue what I believe to be personal agendas over community citizen needs, as well as what appears to be apparent absence of common respect for certain citizens. This is my opinion. And today, I'm mainly addressing the Recreation Board alderman and Mr. Collins. For everyone else. I realize I have very little time to speak, so I'm trying to cover as much as possible. I do have questions that I would like answered today. They're basic answers. Some of them you just answered for me already. There's a separate attachment that I would like to request records and further information. But anyway, let me continue. In lieu of recent events, votes, and proposed changes at Don Davidson Park, I would like to publicly and formally request the following information for a citizen review in the packets that I have provided to each one of you. I would also like to request the information that I have provided become part of permanent public record. I will leave proper forms requesting this information with the city. So Mr. Collins just answered the directional signage at the front of the entrance. My question was, will you be replacing this because it had incorrect information? And please note, when the sign was put up, the information would have been correct had the basketball court that was proposed and approved been allowed to be completed. If this is misinformation, please excuse me, but this is how we've understood it. 2, will you be replacing the informational signage at the 2 main trailhead kiosks? This includes the history of the Trails for Kids, how it was started by Kevin Freeman and volunteers, as well as miscellaneous information about the trails. This information was removed yesterday, I believe, by the Parks and Recreation Department, as directed by the Recreation Board Aldermen, Martinez and Allen. And it was just specific information. It wasn't everything. It was mainly information that was related to Kevin Freeman and volunteers. Number 3, what are your plans for the amphitheater? Why are you directing Public Works to dismantle it? And why not finish the project that was halted per your decision in the fall? Okay. 4, what are your plans for the natural habitat area of the pond? We've been told that you plan to mow it. Do you know the reason behind allowing native grasses and vegetation to grow around the edges of the pond? The answer is habitat and food webs for many species of insects, animals, and so forth. And this is for people that care about nature, is my point. Number 5, what are your plans for the various flower plots that have been planted all through the trail systems? Those just don't happen by accident. They're planted by volunteers at volunteer expense, not the city's expense. And again, the reason is habitat for wildlife. And let me stop there, something that's not on my paper. Trails for Kids is a natural habitat, a natural wildlife area. That's what these trails were designed to be. They're not mowed, pristine, golf course type trails. Okay? These trails have been going on for 12 years now, and only as of recent has this been a problem. Number 6, what are your plans for the Teresa Brown Storybook trails? The pages were taken down yesterday, and I know who they were taken down by. 7, what is your long-range plan for the future of Trails for Kids, the trailhead system, the trailhead itself, and the pond? How do you plan to maintain these trails now that volunteers are not allowed to work or discouraged from working? And then 8, what is your plan to maintain the overall trails down the road? And then in closing, I would just like to say, it's a sincere shame that the decision of a few who do not even use these trails have such a profound and lasting effect on the citizens that do enjoy and use these trails for many years now. Individuals and groups who enjoy nature, wildlife, photography, hiking, biking, outdoor classrooms, homeschool classrooms, Boy Scouts, cross-country teams, who else? The community service kids, and even troubled teens education program that's there. All of these things have benefited our community and the kids and adults that participate and visit. Trails for Kids is a 12-year labor of love by many volunteers with countless hours donated to maintain and grow our little park at no expense to the city, most of it. And the expense that has been incurred has been approved. I would like for you to take notice of the t-shirt that I brought with me this morning. Not sure if you can see it. If she can see it. Get Friendly with John Davidson Park. This was an event that was sponsored in the fall, I believe in September. It was approved and funds were appropriated by the city and approved by Scott Collins to host this event to educate people about our little park and what's in it, and hopefully get more people to participate and attend. The various projects that you are now dismantling was approved by Mr. Collins as well. Some of the labor-intensive work was even performed by the Parks and Recreation Department with his approval. 2 different occasions this summer and fall, Mr. Collins thanked me personally for all the work that our family and other volunteers have done to put into the park over the years, while he was there personally to see the progress. And then finally, I would like to remind the Recreation Board that you are elected officials whose duty it is to represent this community and its citizens with the utmost respect, fairness, integrity, and when performing your duties, not making decisions based on personal bias or malice. Thank you.
Scott, do you have any answers to any of those?
Yes.
Do I need to sit now, or?
Well, it's up to you. I mean, if you want to stand
This
there,
is
well,
my-
I mean, you're still here, so I mean, if you want, as he addresses some of those questions you had.
Yes.
Some take a little more time, but there's some things specifically said.
Yes. There was a lot of good coordinated activities during the summer. Horseshoe courts.
Yes.
Prime example of people working together, and it was approved. Where the problem started was the 1st of October, because more and more was being done, and more than we could keep up with. And we simply asked the volunteers, namely Mr. Freeman, any proposed improvements to the park goes beyond my authority, come and address it with the Parks and Recreation Committee. That's what started this entire downward spiral. Attacks started immediately on multiple Facebook pages. Instead of working together, they choose to attack the people that wanted to work together and just communicate and coordinate. And so things got sideways from there, and I don't know the answer on how to fix it.
I'm not privy to all the email correspondence, text correspondence, but I do have some where I know that Kevin is back and forth with Mr. Collins, notifying him, Parks and Recs, Chris Mitchell, Militia Widener. Well, Chris was on leave. So there, I can only speak for me today, Mr. Collins, if you understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Kevin can speak for himself with this board. I'm speaking as an outsider looking in, someone who does not normally like public speaking, but I am so frustrated with this situation and how it's being handled. We all need to do better. This board, the citizens, we all need to do better for the common good of this trail system. Put your personal feelings aside and take care of business. That's why I'm here. It's not to point blame, it's to say do your job, let the volunteers educate them on proper protocol, how this should be handled, what can be done, what cannot be done, and then please let us know what are your plans for these trails, because it is personal to a lot of us that have spent years working and dedicating our lives to developing this. Do you understand? I can sure, if there's a project that you've had over the years that might be personal to you, you would want answers too, would you not? Okay, I'm asking for fairness and clarity, not personal bias.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
The attacks are based on two people, and I know what you're saying, and I know what the citizens are saying on social media. First of all, the things were not brought to the board.
Okay, that's not,
I'm losing this statement, arrest you.
that's a lack of communication on
Absolutely.
the city's part.
I disagree.
I have emails, text
Just
messaging.
one second.
Okay,
Things were not properly addressed to the board.
I agree.
There was actually, and I think it was on Facebook and everything else, let's just set the story straight.
Yes, let's
There's
do.
another reason it needs to go to the board. There's liability reasons.
Yes, of course.
The cameras were put up there without anybody knowing. Me as a citizen cannot go up and put cameras up. There's a lot of things were said that they want to be done about this part. And I'm going to just be honest with you right now, and let the newspapers here get this straight.
Yes.
It was made by Mr. Kevin Freeman. He would love for Walmart to donate condoms for the
What?
parks. Listen to me.
I've never heard this.
Yes, well, I'm going to tell you,
Okay.
because I want to set the record straight. If there's cameras up there, I don't know what my kids going up there with these cameras. Why was there cameras put up in the first
I
place?
have no idea.
There was cameras.
Okay, I have no idea.
There was three. They were taken down now.
Okay,
There's proof of that.
okay.
But saying that, when you go to a school and ask them that, or Walmart and a police department, and ask them they would like condoms to be put at these parks because kids are going to be kids, they're going to do what they want to do. No, ma'am. We're not going to condone that.
Okay, I don't have any
That's the
knowledge of this.
reason- This is the reason we wanted this park cleaned up. First of all, it is a park. It's a
It is
baseball
a park.
It's a softball park. It's a frisbee golf park.
Yes, it is.
It is a dog park. I'm all for nature. There's a place for that.
Yes, there is.
Having these fence posts, barbed wire fence, these posts put up wrong with screws sticking out on and all this stuff. Listen, I'm all for nature, and I think a lot of people are. But when you make comments like that, and you put cameras out there in these parks, you want your kids out there being seen on somebody else's
First of
camera?
all, listen, I'm speaking for me.
But I'm telling you, this is the reason.
Yes, but I'm telling
He's
you.
not here to finish that, but I'm here to tell you right now, there was cameras put up there.
Okay,
They should have been up there. Nobody gave them permission to put cameras up there. That's what I'm
It's a
saying.
city park. I
It is a
mean,
city park.
nobody.
I understand that,
agree
sir.
100%. It's not.
I've got your point. Okay?
Okay.
All right. My question is, going forward, we cannot go backwards, any of us. There's been animosity back and forth. Going forward, what is the plan to continue to improve the trails, to maintain the trails?
Well, saying that, Chris yesterday from one of our meetings, Tuesday,
Yes.
Chris from the school.
Cross
come in,
country.
Cross country. He was the only one attended, like it was stated earlier. There was a lot of letters sent out to anybody who wanted to hear. Nobody's discouraging volunteers.
I never saw a letter.
There were letters to volunteers who come to the Lions Club, who else?
Soccer, baseball.
Everybody. Chris.
And do these people
showed up.
normally volunteer at the trails?
Absolutely, they do the trails, they run the trails for cross.
Cross country does, yes.
Absolutely.
Coach Davis has been a wonderful
And he
supporter.
still is.
Yes.
So he was here at our meeting, and he understood what was going on, and they're gonna continue cross country. Nobody discourages them from not being there.
No, of course not.
This is but we gotta get down to the basics. This is a park. This is not, like I said, I don't know if there's any place that he can put a botanical garden in. I'm all for a place somewhere, but putting a park and a botanical garden together, it's a crazy fit.
Why?
I guess it's
Why?
We're
Why would,
parks together.
Soccer and ball fields, why would that not be a crazy fit? It's not, is it?
This park.
I'm saying this is a multi-use-
sports-
It's a sports
It's a
complex.
multi-use park.
It's a sports complex.
It's also a multi-use park.
And the thing is.
Why can't you
I know
have
you don't.
picnic pavilions? Why can't you have hiking trails? Why can't you have ballparks? Why can't you have soccer? Why can't all of these coexist? They have for 12 years. Why all of a sudden is it a problem? If there's barbed wire, if there's fencing that needs to be taken down and corrected, please, by all means, let's fix the things that are
Go
wrong.
to the committee before anybody just goes, or the citizen that takes it upon himself.
Talk to Mr. Collins about that. I have no idea. I know that Chris Mitchell and Scott Collins have been notified. Now, if it doesn't make it to you beyond there, I think that's a city problem that needs to be addressed.
Well, I think that's how we're gonna move forward.
That's how it is.
Everything's gonna come to the committee. If it goes to.
And I would like
it'll
to
come
know,
the
the
committee.
Recreation Committee, do you go before the full board with your decisions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Good.
the full board
It needs
decides on
to.
everything.
It does. Thank you. Any
I
other?
have a statement to make.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm kind of questionable about this too. One, I think, Scott, you should be addressing this lady and let's work this out, because this has been going on for 10 plus years. This didn't just happen in a few months. The city and the Parks and Recs Department has allowed this to continue. It was a sports complex, evidently, when these trails started. So why didn't we stop it then?
It was approved
Okay.
then.
We gave these volunteers approval to go in there and make these trails, to plant these plants, to, let the pond become a natural habitat. Why didn't we stop it then? I mean, when they first started digging for the amphitheater, why was Parks and Recs or Mr. Collins, why did we not question then what is going on?
We did.
We have never addressed any of this until October. I mean, there was a Kevin Freeman Volunteer Day at Don Davidson. Oh, it was a big event for the volunteers and all this. And then all of a sudden, wham, we're done. We're pulling everything out. On the directional sign, why didn't we just take basketball court off the directional sign? Because things change over the years. You might have a basketball court this month, but in a year, you don't have a basketball court. Don't take down the whole sign, just take down what doesn't apply any longer. We do have some problems here, and it's been allowed to go on and on for a long time.
Now,
So I
Scott,
agree.
now, a year ago, I
Thank
went
you.
out to the trails one day with my son, and the trails had overgrown.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, did the city not help clear the trails again back to what they were?
Yes.
Yes, Parks and Rec.
So there's been.
Chris Mitchell has been wonderful
So
to
there's been
help.
hand in hand, it isn't.
Yes, Chris Mitchell has been wonderful to help when he's allowed to, okay? He's always willing, if he cannot do something, he will tell us, or he'll forward it on to Mr. Collins for his approval. Now, where it ends from there, that's your problem, not ours. But we are looking for solutions, Mr. Mayor, not finger-pointing blame. If something needs to be corrected, let's correct it. But the main purpose of this is we want the trail system to remain. There are a lot of people that enjoy those trails. Maybe you don't, but there's a lot of us that do. There's a lot of people that enjoy nature, and we want it to continue.
We've never
Nobody
discussed
discussed it.
closing
I
the
don't know
trails.
where
That's
this is
never been
coming from.
discussed.
I've never heard, nobody's ever
What
said
are you talking
closing
about?
trails. I don't know.
I didn't say closing trails,
You
sir.
said it remain, we're gonna remain the trails.
The trails-
If they're not maintained, they will grow up. In the spring,
We addressed that a second ago as well. The
okay,
city did.
the city plans to maintain the trails, to keep them mowed, to keep them clean, Mr. Collins? Yes, you're gonna clean the debris that falls in the trails.
Well, there's also a lot of undergrowth out there.
There's a lot of undergrowth,
That needs to be pulled
there's
out.
trees and branches that fall on the trails in the spring when the river floods.
Well, there's
All,
also an area that as you go down by the creek.
yeah, the leopard
that
frog
needs to,
loop.
well, there needs to be some type of, you could fall I mean, if you rode a bike or something, or a kid wanted to ride a bike,
Yeah.
there needs to be a little something put up there safety-wise, just
That
for
would be
people
great.
or adults. Or
If you guys
something
want to
like
do it, that would be wonderful. In the springs, the trail floods due to the river flooding, and it has to be clean.
Floodplain, yeah.
Yep. In the past, it's always been volunteers that clean the trails. So, thank you. I'm glad that we have it on record that the city plans to maintain the trails. That's what we want. If there's things that need to be corrected, please let's do it. But, do so with integrity, please.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for Scott.
Thank you.
Answer her questions and get back to her.
I dropped my mask. There we go.
We'll go on to item number 2, consideration of approving park on Hedgemont Maple. Scott, do you want to address this?
Yes, sir.
Or is Chris here?
Public servant,
Chris, you want to come up? I mean, it doesn't really matter who wants to address this.
well, perhaps we
Came out of committee the other day.
piggyback off each other some, but at the request from the committee, a public survey was conducted during the past few weeks, and we received over 20 responses. 75% are in favor of establishing a community park in that neighborhood. 25% were opposed. Of the 4 or so that were opposed, was a couple of them was just outright personal reasons. One of them wanted to buy the property so he could develop it. 2 or 3 gave no reason whatsoever. They were just against it. And then another one said they'd like to see housing opportunities there. But again, 75% of the people that our staff spoke with and returned the mail-in surveys are heavily in favor of having something for the community in that area.
So this was a targeted survey?
Yes, sir.
In that area?
Yes, sir. The neighboring streets.
The neighborhood in that area?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I asked for that. That's what I asked for.
Yes, sir.
Because this turned into, unfortunately, this turned into a pre-election issue. And since it turned into a pre-election issue that was going on, we made the decision it's better to just don't do anything, just wait until after the election's over, because it had become a political football.
Yes, sir.
It didn't need to be a political football, but it did. So we put this is not our committee, by the way, this is just what input I kind of ended up having in it. There was a online survey made before the election. And, anybody that could respond to that survey, and they could be anywhere, they could be in no telling where. So I did ask Scott, before I made a decision on anything like this, I wanted to know what does a community that this will be located in, because it is a community, if we do it, it is primarily a community park.
Yes, sir.
For that area. Well, anybody can go and use it, I don't mean that, but it's probably to try to enhance that community. And rather than just having a piece of property sitting there, not doing anything, but I wanted to know what the actual community thought about it. And I'm glad that I'm glad that y'all done that. I'm glad you've got that information. So, that being said, that's my
Thoughts of the rest of the board?
How many surveys did you actually send out, or how was the survey conducted? You said mail?
Yes, our planning department worked with the police department, and we went door knocking. We went door to door in all the surrounding streets and businesses. In addition to residences, there was a few businesses that it was discussed with. And we left the information for them to fill out and mail back in, and we did receive approximately 20 back in. And we've also received a couple of emails from a church that is directly across from the property, highly favorable of establishing a park there, community park.
So would you say how many?
20.
20 returned?
Yes.
About how many went out?
Probably 50. Christie, can you?
Yes, ma'am. I would say around that much. And we also even, people that own property that didn't necessarily live there, that had rental property, we also mailed them the survey to get their info too.
I've just got a concern, and I know we've got, several parks here already. It's, in my term, I've had people talk to me about, we aren't keeping up what we've got right now. Putting in another park, and I just don't know if that area, if it's big enough for what I consider a park. So I've got some concerns on that doing it. I mean, that's something that's going to be a continual cost after it's put in. I know we saw the cost this morning on what it would be to put in. And I've just got concerns on putting a park there.
Well, this park, we kind of looked at this one as, and correct me if I'm wrong on the name, was it William Battle
Yes.
Park? Is that the name? Okay. More like a small community park, not a park that mobs of people are going to drive to or will have big events. This would be a small, like, pocket community park.
But it's just that Stone Bridge is right down the road that has the pavilions, has the grills. I just don't see putting the expense in another one right up the road.
Well, one reason I was interested in this area is because we have a lot of people there that walk, that may not have transportation, and it would be a good place for them to be able to go, because I know they could go to Stonebridge, but that's crossing the highway. I mean, but there are a lot of people that live in that community who walk or just aren't going to drive to the other parks.
I
I'm
think,
concerned for the, I'm sorry, Dorothy.
Well, I
I'm
think
concerned for
using the
the Parks and Rec
Excuse me?
Department.
I think using the word
Wait,
park, hang on just a minute.
just a second, Alderman. Go
I
ahead.
think using the word park is a misnomer. I think more of a green space is the idea that was started from the beginning. So saying park, and people looking at what's down at Stone Bridge and how that's put together, we can call it a green space, it would be more. I'm not for or against it right now. I think we need more information. I think we need more than 20 people that are for it. I think we need to hear from others in that community area. Could you go to Walnut Heights?
Ms. Dorothy, we could provide you the area and the map that we used. I believe it was approximately like a 2-block radius around that area. And we did go to the businesses, and we did hear back from the church.
Well, I understand the church was for it.
Yes, ma'am.
I talked to Reverend Carmichael, and he is in favor of that. I think we need more information. I think we need to hear from more than 20 people. I think we need to encourage everyone in that area that's going to be involved to respond.
Alderman Hartman?
Yes, I'm just worried about, I agree with Alderman Small, maybe more like a green space. We've just said that the Parks and Rec Department is going to take over a lot of the work that the volunteers at Don Davidson is doing. So then we're going to add another park to them. And I agree, it's a small area, like Jeff says, to go in there and add a lot of things because it's so small.
Everybody okay with it going down the road a little bit longer?
Yeah, and we can get more information on the cost and the plans for what the people have asked for, because what they did also in the survey asked people what they would like to see in the park. And as far as maintaining and the grass and stuff, I know either way we own that property. So as far as maintaining the property, we have to do that anyway.
Yeah, but if you're weed eating around, playground equipment and pavilions and upkeep of buildings and trash and all that's a lot more work than just mowing the grass.
Well, we can discuss, if somebody has another idea with property, but.
I just worry about with Camp Blunt coming on too. That's going to be a whole lot more work that Chris and his guys are going to have to take care of. There's going to be a good bit more with that, and that's another concern I have on it too.
Okay, we'll get more information and talk about it in committee again.
Okay, well, that strikes number 3 off the agenda. So how is everything else going on?
Everything's going good right now. We're just doing some outside maintenance on the ball fields and stuff when the weather's permitting. We're still in the process of getting all the lights down at Stonebridge Park. We're in a preliminary of starting, which I'll give a full report Tuesday night, but baseball, softball, and soccer sign-ups are all going to start January 19th.
That's good.
And we're going to do, and I'll quote on separate dates, but we're going to do like a pre-registration special, like a $10 discount. So it'll be a $35 sign-up fee for the first couple weeks. Then after that, then it'll go back to regular $45. So we're getting all the kinks and stuff trying to get worked out of youth sports and all that. And we've already done some planning and set tentative dates for all our events for this upcoming year. So we're just planning and working on the outside.
Any idea on how traffic was through Stonebridge, considering we're in the COVID and?
I do not, but I do know, like, when we were getting everything set up before the light-up ceremony, I'd come back in about every night just to make sure what we done was right. And I mean, there was always several people down there. So, I mean, it
looked good. I mean, it looked really good. I know Paul Henry, I think, posted a drone.
Yes, sir.
Kind of overshot of a overhead, and it looked really good. You could see it light up. That was lights were going on and off. So.
Yes, sir. It looked really good. And the light-up ceremony went okay, of course, with the city and playing. Yes, sir. It took a lot of the crowd, but and we was proud of the Christmas parade. Seemed like everything went well on it.
Yeah, went pretty quick this time.
Yes, sir.
Was over.
Well, there wasn't two of them.
Right. So. What was the number of entries in the parade? Because I think normally we had some like the county volunteer fire departments, maybe not all of them participated.
And usually, as far as entry wise, we'll have around 80 something like that. But this year, we didn't have that many entries, but we still had a lot of pieces because just like the Jeep Wranglers, where there was like 15 or 20 of them. Well, instead of doing them numbers, when we got to a certain parking plaza, we just kind of put all them in there. That way we wasn't spacing out all up the bypass. So it packed everybody in tighter.
Okay.
So I'm going to say we probably had 70 units maybe, would be my guess.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions of Mr. Mitchell while he's up here? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to planning codes, Ms. Gentry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll give a full department report on Tuesday, but I did want to mention that the building inspector position is open through Monday, January 11th. Application and job description can be picked up at the municipal building. It is on our website, Facebook page. We send it out to TBOA and MTAS. And if you need further information, you can call 433-2565. We had a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on Tuesday morning. There was 2 items on the agenda. Mr. Don Gray was seeking a setback side and rear setback variance for his lot on Winchester Highway. It's the lot in between Oakway Apartments and Frankie. That was granted. He's going to do some office and storage units on that location. And then the second item was, it's already been through Planning Commission and it had to come to BZA for a special exception permission. It's 201 William D. Jones Boulevard, and that's where they're putting the 8-bed detox unit. And that's my report.
Anybody have any other questions, Ms. Gentry?
Thank you.
Go to IT, Mr. Taylor.
With our new website, we've got our tourism and our new website that's going to be tentatively up by the end of this month, and so we're looking forward to that. I've been working closely with Steve Chandler and Revised to make sure that this is completed, so we're hopefully this will be done by the end of January. We are going to, also by the end of January, we're going to be doing a disaster recovery for the city, for all departments. There'll be everything from a local government server to police department server, anything to do with city business. We're going to bring it up from the backups over at 911, and so we're going to do that at the end of this month, and I'll do a detailed report of what worked, what didn't work. and I'll present that to Scott. He can share it with the board. We're also touching all the PCs, upgrading all the antivirus on all of our PCs. The current antivirus that we had, they sold that company. And so once they sold it, we had to move into a different company. And so now we're in the process of upgrading all those PCs. They should be done by the end of this week. And we're evaluating some software now so that would allow our department to not have to visit other departments. It's a remote software that they can actually see us, get into their PC, and we can do training, and we can actually show them what to do as if we were there. So hopefully this software will be purchased by the end of this month too, and so we'll be installing that. So it'll be a helpful tool for our department. So we don't have to actually go somewhere. We can actually just remote in and do what we need to do. And then I'm working with each department head right now to see their IT needs for 2001, and I'll be putting it in our budget.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Taylor? Thank you for keeping doing that.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go into finance. We have Mr. Britt Dye here with FPU on a resolution. You come on up, please. It will be DWF 2021-230, authorizing resolution 2021-02.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. The resolution that we're trying to get the city to pass and supporting us on some more water rehab that's going on, and the first part is for $621,000. This is required by the state on the state revolving fund. The other portion, biggest change in this, it used to just be one package altogether. Then when the city approved the debt for us to do this, we only had to come one time. Now the state has divided that up into two parts, where you got to get the planning and design done first, and then they will approve you to get the rest of the funds to do the work. Because what was happening, what brought this change was a lot of utilities and other systems that are going and requesting this money, and they would allocate that money to those systems, and they would not spend the money, so it kept other systems from getting those funds. So that's the reason this has been broke up to two parts. We will be coming back again if y'all approve all this. You know, it'd probably take up close to a year to get the other part done, with all the paperwork that's got to be passed by the state with their boards. So we'll have to be coming back again as well later on.
And what's the specific area that you would, in your work plan, that this would apply to?
It's all going to be in the older part, like on the east side, west side. It's actually throughout the biggest parts of the city. We know that we have funded and borrowed money for water improvements, but you'll see that we improved the water tanks, been replaced. The water plant had been replaced. So on the distribution side, it's only been like 10% of the distribution side has either been rehabbed or replaced. So in doing this part right here, we'll get up close to 15 to 20% as far as the water replacements. But right now we're set up between 50 and 55% on the wastewater. So anything of this money that's being borrowed through the state, it'll only be for water. You can only do it for water. It cannot be spent on wastewater. So we haven't found out yet if there's any forgiveness money. They don't know, but usually if there's not any forgiveness money, the interest rate is really, really, really low. So.
Okay. Everybody good with taking this on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I'm moving it on, and of course this will be down the road, but we will continue as a Public Works Committee, I'm sure, to encourage Eddie and you to work together to work. We don't go in and pave a bunch of streets that y'all gonna go back and put water lines in. Right now we got it going pretty good, so keep it going that way.
Yeah, we have good communications with Eddie, and we try to do the best we can. Just sometimes we have to go back and we don't plan to do it, you know.
Well, that's understandable. That's utility business. I mean, that's just utility business, but
at least what we are replacing is really, really old, and there's a whole lot of work to be done, and it's not in all that good shape, and we're trying to get it as quick as we can get it done.
Well, as long as we know not to go in there and put a bunch of paving down till you get through, then we'll be working good. We'll be good.
We'll take this on Tuesday night. Thank you, Mr. Dye, for coming.
Thank you, Mayor.
Stacy, you come up. Next is a comp time recommendation that came out of finance. You have on your iPads a list of employees that have an overage over the 48 hours accumulated on comp time. It comes to a total cost of $19,367.94. And so a recommendation came out to just pay this out to
The recommendation
employees.
came out of finance to just pay these amounts out to get everyone back to the 48 hours. That is what policy states is the max to have in your comp time balance. And then going forward, if any employee works over their regular 40 hours, that they get paid the overtime rate for it, rather than it going into a comp time bank that is already maxed out.
Any thoughts?
What will we have, my question to this, what will we have in place to, right now, if they work overtime, it goes to comp time, and you kind of have a record of how many hours people are accumulating. If we're paying it out in overtime, are we going to be able, I mean, is there anything to stop all of this overtime?
And I think you tried to address that, Andy, Scott, about other people taking on other things instead of one.
We're distributing duties, balancing everything out more and more to where the overtime, comp time will be significantly curtailed.
Because it seems like the higher hours are more in the administration area.
Yes.
And the way I see it right now, we have more employees, Scott, in your department than we've ever had. We do not have more employees, so the number of employees is not running overtime up. The budget has not increased, so finance work, it shouldn't be what's running the overtime hours up. We have an HR person now. I don't know what's running this overtime over so much, and there's nothing put in place to help them in it.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I just stated we have taken steps to curtail it significantly, primarily the minutes. Minutes takes hours and hours and hours to transcribe. And during the course of a normal day, the person responsible for that couldn't do her duties and the minutes. So that is one of the driving factors. And we've distributed out and have other people doing it where they can schedule to do it during the course of their regular workday.
Well, minutes is not something that just started. Minutes have been going on for years, so I don't understand that.
We had minutes for work session, finance, but then there was a request that we had minutes for all committees, and that just came on in the last couple of years. So the citizens had more transparency to that. And then also some of the things that came in of events that have been doing, and the CCD factor have been put on the planning department, so I can see that's where those hours are going to. Stacy, how long on this list here, how far back does it go on this accumulation of the hours?
It goes back to when each employee was hired, because it just continues to accumulate from whenever they are hired on. It's just been a running total. It has been the practice always that administrative employees did not get paid overtime, because if they did go over, it was a few hours and then they used them up. One other thing that probably does play a big factor in this is now that we have the digital time clocks and we are physically making employees clock in and clock out when they are here, we know what hours they're working rather than an employee being here 9 or 10 hours and writing 8 on a timesheet.
So you should be able to monitor. You're getting close to your 48. The department heads need to be aware of this, and you're getting close to your 48 hours. You need to take some time off. I mean, we've been in COVID, and a lot of employees haven't worked 40 hours, but yet this overtime or comp time keeps accumulating. I think I don't know if it's gonna have to come from the department heads to monitor this comp time clause, or what's gonna happen. I know the employees were sent out a form that no additional comp time would be added unless it was previously approved, but there's still hours accumulating.
Yes, ma'am, there are hours accumulating, but let's take Miss Pam Gentry, for instance. She is required to come to the board meeting. That is after her regularly scheduled hours, so she is earning comp time at an overtime rate for the hours that she is here for those meetings. And the committee meetings that are scheduled after 4 o'clock, or, she is required to be here for those.
So maybe come in late. I just don't know why in this administration area that this has gotten so out of hand. I mean, we're talking about a large payouts. And comp time is something you do not have to pay out until the employee separates from employment. So we could just add, instead of writing all these checks, we could just ask the employee to use up the comp time before they use sick leave or annual leave. Now, once they turn in paperwork that I'm leaving, I have a new job, yes, you have to pay them out. But it's not a forced payout, right?
Other thoughts from other board members on this recommendation?
Move forward to the meeting. Well, I want to ask, so if they don't use their sick leave or their vacation time in a year, does it roll over to the next year or no?
Only 160 hours of vacation can roll over each year. Sick time continues to accumulate until retirement. There's no max on it.
Okay, well, it wouldn't be fair to ask people to use their comp time instead of vacation time if they can't roll that vacation time over, in my opinion, to force somebody to do that. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
You're right, there's a lot of times they're here on these meetings that we do talk and go beyond our time.
Well, she couldn't come in late because most of those days we have committee meetings in the mornings also, starting early, actually, at 7:30.
9 o'clock in place, I think we can make it move forward and just take care of what they've done. They are appreciated, they are working.
Oh, I don't question the hours at all, and I don't blame the employee. They have put in the hours. It's the department heads need to monitor this and make sure when people get close to whatever our limit is, whether it's 48 or 100 or whatever, encourage the employee to take comp time first, not let it get to hundreds of hours.
I think that's something we'll talk in the February meeting in Street Planning. Would you agree to make changes?
And one thing we're doing here, Donna, is what we talked about in finance is paying this out to where it goes to 48 and it never goes over again. 48 is in the handbook and that's where we're going to keep it, and there will be no piling on top of that. Which I know it's going to overtime pay, but I mean, we're getting rid of the comp time that's over 48 hours.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I understand that. So you're going to get rid of the comp time and you're going to max out at 48. So now you're going to add overtime and we're going to pay it out. But what's to control the overtime?
But that's the thing about it. I think everybody sees the magnifying glass is on that now, and those steps are going to be taken to take care of that part on that side.
Stacy, can you provide us with an overtime report occasionally so we know what's being paid out? Because at least with comp time, we've got record of it.
We will have record of all of the overtime in the payroll records, but also there will be a separate line item on your financial report. Overtime goes into its own separate general ledger account. It is not lumped in with the salaries line item, so you will be able to see that dollar every month on that financial report.
Right, kind of like we saw the fireman overtime.
Yes, ma'am. Each department has their own overtime general ledger account.
Okay.
When this came to the finance committee, which has been 2 or 3 months, we've been dealing with this for 2 or 3 months. When this came to the finance committee, and I think even work session maybe last time we talked about this some. We were trying to come to a conclusion on how to get control of this. How do we control this? And we made it clear. The finance committee, I think, made it clear. this needs to be controlled going forward the best we can. Now, there's going to be times to when these people's going to have to work overtime. If you're not willing to pay your people for overtime, whatever, you got a problem. We've got a problem. We're not willing to pay our people that works overtime, or whether it be comp time, overtime, or whatever. But what we're trying to do is get this thing back to, say, start all over. Like Jeff said, we're trying to get this thing back to where you're not going to accumulate no more than 48 hours. That's what the handbook says. So let's quit playing around with what the handbook says. That's what it says. You know, if it says that, that's what we ought to do. So the plan that we brought forward is to try to get this thing back to 48 hours. Yes, if they go over the 48, they should be paid for overtime. But we've made it clear to the city administrator that we expect for some action to be taken in order to, in particular in administration, in order to spread these responsibilities out to where all of this don't load up on one or two people, which is what's happening right now. Now, he's told us about 3 times here now already that he's already done that. He's told us about 3 times he's already done it. So this is the best way we knew to be fair to the employee. You know, we talked about doing away with comp time. Not even having it, just go straight time and a half. But then we thought about it, and we thought, well, there is some employees that wants to use some comp time. Well, we thought about raising the level of the comp time. That don't solve anything, but raising the level of the comp time, and they can accumulate more, all right, but you still got it on the books. So in order to make an attempt to get it to where it can be controlled better, this is what we've recommended. Now, we're taking the city administrator's word here that he has taken action to spread a lot of this workload out in order to take care of this situation. And I think that's what the board wants. But the bottom line is we owe these folks this money. That's the bottom line. These folks has worked for this money. They work for this. If we're not willing to pay them for it, we got a problem as a board. And this is the best way we could come up with to go back to the 48 hours and not let it go over, and to deal with the overtime situation in-house. So we'll be able, 6 months from now, we're going to be able to look back and see if we've done any good or not. We're going to be able to look back in 6 months and say, is this working? Have we got this under control better than what it is? Are we being more fair to the employees that's being overloaded? And the thing about these employees is they're just employees going to do the work either way. They're going to do the work whether they get a dime for it or not. That's the kind of employees they are. But we owe it to them. We owe this money to these employees that's done this. We need to get this thing back under control. This is the best way I know to do it.
Oh, I agree with the employees. We've got some great employees. They have worked the hours and they are do it. It's not their responsibility to monitor this and keep it in, a fair amount of time. So as long as we do what we say we're going to do as far as monitoring going forward or something in place, but it may be have to adjust hours on meeting days and things like that, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, Scott, do you want to tell us for the 4th time that you're working on getting this under control?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Matter of fact, I had words with Miss Gentry, I think Tuesday night, that it was around 4:30 and I was leaving.
Right.
And she was still here, and I said, you need to go home.
Right.
But the mayor had assigned her a task, so.
I would suggest that we go ahead. I would suggest we go ahead and take care of the situation. Get it under control, making that. Yeah, I drove by and saw a white SUV sitting out yonder at 715 the other night, and I think I made a comment to Pam about that. And I saw her vehicle sitting out there at 715 or sometime or another, and she was putting packets together, as I understand. But look, the board, this is a situation that's been going on way before any of us ever got on this board, I guess.
Yes.
So this board, and not just this board, but anyway, we're looking at a lot of different things to where we're getting things more lined up, under more control. And these situations have been going on for a long time. At some point or another, when you begin to address them, you know, you're going to have some issues come up, and there's going to be good questions. Why has someone got 444 hours of overage, 396 hours? Why is that? Well, that's because they're being overworked. So we're shifting the responsibilities around, and what I would like for us to do is just go ahead and take care of this. But I would like to review this in about 6 months and just come back and see if our plan's working.
Yes, sir.
To help with this. If a plan's not working, do something else.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's what we're trying to do here. But I'm all for paying these employees for this, and I think every single board member's for taking care of what we owe these employees. I think so anyway. It's just the right thing to do.
The rest of the board good taking this to Tuesday?
Yeah.
All right, number 3, emergency expenditure, plumbing repair, $1,040.
Okay, we had some pipes upstairs that were leaking, and it was literally pouring water all day, every day into one of the offices downstairs. And so we had to make the decision to have an emergency purchase to get whatever plumber we could in here to get it fixed. The way purchasing policy states, if it is an emergency purchase, it does have to be retroactively approved by the board. So we just need the approval for that. It is within budget for building repairs, but since it was not, we did not receive quotes due to it being an emergency. That's what that
With
is.
water, that's understandable. Everybody good with passing this on Tuesday, take action? Also in finance the other day on item number 4, Stacy explained, Judge Ray Thompson, who does our city court, we pay him $600 a month, mainly to cover medical premium. I assume he's on our medical.
Yes, Judge Thompson does have our health insurance, and the agreement has always been his monthly salary is basically just enough to cover those monthly family premiums. We had a rate increase in health insurance this year going into effect January 1, and now his $600 salary is not enough once taxes are pulled out of his check to cover those premiums. So my recommendation was to bump him from $600 to $700 a month, and it would still have him actually cash in pocket minimal.
That came out through a recommendation to do that, 5
Yes,
minutes.
and the board has to vote on it because it is a pay increase for him, and it would be a budget amendment.
Everybody good with that? Okay, take that Tuesday. Any other things, Stacy? Oh, go ahead and give an update on sales tax.
Okay. Our local option sales tax for what we received the month of December was $234,574.14. I did run some quick analysis comparing year to year for the same month, and we have had an increase every single month from the previous year. Our highest one was for what we received in September was 13% higher than what we had received the previous year. And so we've received 46% of our budgeted revenue with 5 months of revenue recorded.
If we stay on track, and we've not got the December numbers yet, have we?
No, sir, we have not got December sales
But
yet.
if we stay on track the way we've been doing, we will end up with about $250,000 more than we had the year before. Because right now, we're at
122,000 more than this time last year.
That's 5 months. So if we stay on track, we should end up $250,000 more than what we had last year. And I don't know, I don't remember what we budgeted for it, but
We did drop it slightly. We did not make a huge decrease.
but we should be able to budget.
Yes, we will absolutely be over budget if we continue at this rate.
All right.
The only other thing I have is I did have a call with S&P Global, who is the bond rating organization, last week. They are meeting, I would assume, as we speak. If you see me keep glancing at my watch, I have a follow-up call with them. and I'm waiting on a text from Michelle in case they do call while I'm in here. So as soon as they call, I should know what our new bond rating is. By next week, we should be going to market to sell for bonds.
Speak just a little bit, and I don't see you have it on here, but we did discuss this, I believe, in finance. Raymond James, we've got $600,000 invested with Raymond James.
Yes, sir. I received an email from Raymond James, who does a treasury bond this past week, where that treasury bill is up to be renewed. Currently, we are receiving 0.05 or 0.1% on these bills. The last 3 months, we've earned a whopping $5. Over 600, the total in that account currently is 658,000. So we have the option, I can either tell them to go ahead and renew the treasury bill. With the economy, the questionability of the economy, it's like anything else. We could gain money, we could lose money. Or I can have them turn around and write us a check, and we can deposit that into a local savings account. We can purchase CDs with it. We can spend it on a knuckle boom.
Alderman Alder, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, rates are awful right now on everything. I mean, it's, if you're buying a house, it's great. If you're trying to save money, it's not good. So, you heard what we're getting back. I mean, there's not much, and you're not going to find it anywhere. I mean, so it's, I don't know.
I can tell you in 2020, we made a whopping $6,270 for the entire year off of $650,000.
Okay, that's restricted funds. Once how long did we redo does it go for next time?
1 year.
1 year at a time. So that is restricted funds. Those funds is restricted. We can't use them for anything.
That's correct.
So when do you need to know by whether to renew them or not?
He didn't give me a specific time date. It just kind of sits there waiting until I give him the word of what to do.
I don't know if it's worth even keeping it or not.
I at least like the fact that it's just a year, that we don't have it on a 5-year or we can't get to. At least being a year, if something came up like a fire truck and we needed it, we could have pretty good access.
Well, something's going to come up. Something's going to come up on a fire truck.
Yeah.
About 2 years from now.
And that may be one option we want to do, renew for 1 more year with the potential of.
That's not a bad idea to think about, I guess, renewing it for another year or two. When that engine number 2 hits us.
Can't last another year though, that's just it.
So it doesn't make any difference whether we will or not, because we got the funding in place anyway. It's not that. It don't mean we couldn't deal with a fire truck. We still got funding in
It
place.
just make it easier if we use that. But it's, I mean, being on a year, I mean, at least we're making something with it. You said, you know, a few thousand is better than nothing. I mean, of course, we could put it in something else if we pulled it out, and like Stacy said, put it in something else. But
well, it's an option, you know, if we know we're going to be looking at engine number 2 at some point. We've done been given plenty of warning on that.
Right.
Probably 2 years is a guess on that, so that's a thought. Let it sit there maybe another year or two. And then, but if something happened before that time, it's not that we can't handle it, we can.
No, we could pull those funds out of what we call idle funds. They're just sitting there drawing interest.
Yeah, that's right.
And then reimburse those funds, basically.
Right. You know, you can do that, or you can do you can do a 3-year, whatever. We can do it either way. So I guess the idea is just let it go another year, right?
I don't know. I think it's been on a year. It keeps us pretty safe to where we're not stuck in something we can't pull it out of. Right. So I think it's 6,000 is better than nothing. I mean, I'm sitting in a account that might not be making as much as that. Its rates are tough right now.
Well, when we got into that, Raymond James, it was intended. Now, in all fairness, this is before Stacy came on board, so she didn't start Raymond James. It was intended that it grow into a lot more than this. The 600,000 was only to get into it, see how it was going to work. Right. It was intended on investing in that a lot heavier, but obviously it panned out that it wouldn't do us much good to invest in it much longer, much more. So it was just kind of a trial to see how it worked.
Right.
Anything else, Mr. Roselle? All right, thank you. We'll go to administration. ADA Transition Plan Resolution 2020-101. Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is the result of several months of work on analyzing all the ADA issues across the city and all city properties, including school and FPU. And this just completes the process, letting TDOT know that we have completed the transition plan and we will be implementing it within the well, we're implementing it now, but we have 30 years to try to address all of the issues that's been developed.
Yeah, this directive came down from the state, basically saying, and you can put in things that are already in place or working on in place, like when we do sidewalk ends and if they've got curved edges and we go into a handicap accessible end. But the state expects that we're putting some type of plan in place that we will continually work on anything that makes it better for the American Disabilities Act. So we just need to carry this on to Tuesday.
That came out of our committee, Alderman Small and myself's committee. We've been on the ad hoc committee, I guess you'd say. Has FPU and the school system been notified of, do they know about what part of that is theirs?
No, sir, we're going to sit down and give them a notebook like the board has been provided and highlight each section for each.
So they didn't get a report, went direct to them, we've only got one report.
Right.
So now they've got to pull out whatever theirs is.
Yes, and we'll provide that for them. And have a sit-down meeting, as we discussed during the committee, bringing all the entities to the table.
Right.
And that was an assessment that was done by a third-party group that came in and looked at everything around town, infrastructure, buildings, access, and they came up with a report. We may disagree with aspects of the report. It wasn't a declaration that said that the city school system had to do this or FPU had to do it. It was just, you have to make sure you have a plan. So I'm sure between all three entities, we're continually doing something that does something that benefits people that have disabilities.
Yeah, what we'll have to do too, and you brought this up, Mayor, is a good point. There is quite a bit of this in this. It's itemized where all the sidewalks and most of them the city. It's not. I don't think it's a lot of FPU's still in this really. But as we do routine work that covers part of that, that's in that ADA plan. As we do routine work that takes care of that, we can use that work as being a part of taking care of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, we set aside X number of dollars to do this, every year, whatever it might take to do it, because we want to get started pretty early on working on this. We don't want, we got 30 years, we don't want to kick it down the road till you don't get anything done, and somebody sitting here 30 years from now has got to deal with it. But if we set aside a certain funding to do it, and in the process of routine work, some of that's took care of, that can be a part of that.
Check the box. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
just check it off.
Yeah. So really it is controllable over a 30-year period of time.
And then number 2 was resolution 2020-103 naming our HR coordinator, the ADA coordinator. EMAD, our building inspector, has been the previous ADA point of contact. Yes. And so now we need to have another person take that over. So everybody good with moving that to Tuesday? Makes sense.
Yeah, do we have anybody, sir?
Yes, and this is primarily for the appeal process or complaint process per se. So we felt it would be better coming through the administration and HR coordinator to address their concerns.
Okay.
Mr. Collins, anything else on administration?
I'll be reporting more on Tuesday, sir, but the RF request for qualifications will go out this week to get an engineer for the design of the Square Sidewalk project. And William D. Jones, right up until Christmas Eve, TDOT and the engineer were going back and forth on comments TDOT was providing back to the engineer. Everything was submitted again, addressing the comments on Christmas Eve, and they have replied that due to workload and holidays, it'd probably be January 22nd before we have the final answer to go to bid. And likewise with the LPRF soccer complex project, the bids will be opened on January 28th.
What's going on with this Camp Block for phase 2?
We are analyzing the money. We have one outstanding bill that we're working with the engineers on to get the final number, and then we will review how much money we have left over from the governor's direct appropriation of $500,000. And number one priority is to put lights on the statue and the flags so we can fly the flags 24/7. Excuse me.
What phase is that archaeology dig in? Is that 2 or 3?
That is actually, sir, for the phase 2 Greenway.
Right.
All that information was submitted, and they said they would give us, it may take up to 30 days to review, and we're halfway there.
So is that the only holdup on phase 2?
The Greenway, yes, sir, because if you all will recall, they actually gave us the notice to proceed to construction last January. Last January, they told us we could bid that project out.
Right.
And then the very next day, they sent back, no, we need more archaeology review. And we've been after that an entire year.
So the bridge across the river, that is the phase that's
yes.
the primary
Vice Mayor, that's the phase 2, yes.
phase 2. Okay.
Okay, anybody have any other questions of Mr. Collins? Lance?
I have a question, Scott, not on that, but going back to this John Davidson Park, is there a problem with the money that was donated to the volunteers to be spent on city property? Does the city have any responsibility in that, of reporting that, or, is that something that we need to report control over? Is that, I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about that because we have no idea what that money was spent on. We have no idea how much was donated. But do we have a responsibility to that since it's city property?
That is one of the primary issues, Alderman. For the reasons we asked the volunteers that were doing the work and raising the money, reportedly in the city's name, to come and get approval, starting with the Parks and Recreation Committee and going on as needed to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And likewise, with the naming of items within a city property, there was confusion on who had authority to do that. So again, we asked the volunteers and people involved, please come to the Parks and Rec Committee, and then they will address the issues and move it forward to the full board as necessary. And we are getting a defined policy on that right now, because
So have you spoken to the comptrollers, or do we know? Do we have a responsibility of what has already been collected and spent?
I cannot readily answer that, Alderman.
That kind of concerns me, because we have no idea. And before that, those namings and that sign went up, those names were on there. So we knew that, and we allowed the sign to go up with things being named. And we're not sure about the legal process of that. So I think we've got a lot that we need to investigate to keep ourselves out of trouble.
Yeah, that was one of the main points of the committee with that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. One last item. Unfortunately, we had the passing of Ron Mayhall at the end of 2020. He was on our Airport Authority Board, and I sent an email to the board toward the end of December that I wanted to bring Reese Howell as a replacement on that board. Reese Howell has 40-something years of aviation experience and is retired and living in Fayetteville now, and the board members also feel very comfortable, so I'm bringing his name forward on Tuesday unless anybody has any objection. So, any other aldermen have any other thing to bring up before we adjourn the work
I
session?
do. I laid everybody a packet, I think, if y'all seen it. Donna's not here, but if y'all got it, it's the personnel policy. And I guess it's all stemmed from Donna's outburst, Alderman Alden's outburst last month at a meeting. And I guess it did get personal. But if it was a city employee, it outbursted and made comments that she made, they'd be reprimanded. If you look down to the highlighted areas they gave y'all, and it states about bullying and stuff like, there's all kinds of things in that policy. I was wanting to see a recommendation with y'all and see what y'all want to move forward. Let's see what kind of recommendation she needs. Me personally, not only do I think she needs to write a letter to Chris, Deidre, and the newspaper because of her outburst. I think it was uncalled for. Nobody made any comments back to her about who her ex-husband is. Do we need to change auditors? What goes on in the city business? But that kind of outburst should not be tolerated at all. So I wanted to make a recommendation to see what y'all think as far as moving forward. Put on, it's already in policy. Just what kind of recommendation be that she did.
First of all,
so
Roger,
she
it
is
wasn't
recommended.
an outburst, it's the truth.
Nobody, so should we get rid of the auditor? Is that your ex-husband? Should you write a piece? I'm just saying, should we write it? Should you reading a note every time he comes up to a meeting that you can't vote on anything of that nature? That's what I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is, it was an outburst. It was, like I said, from the start. It was silly, but I just want to know what the board feels like, and if y'all feel like we should leave it alone and let's let her continue it, continue being the way she is, let her be it. But I think she's already set a presence, and we need to stop it. Because I think if anybody on the board did it,
Kind of like the previous Alderman Martinez made an outburst toward me being a false accusation.
I wasn't on that board, so I can't.
We couldn't do anything at that time, and it also against a city employee. It's the same thing.
I can't help what happened last time. Maybe you should have brought it up then. I'm trying to nip it in the bud now. It is not to be ever.
I did.
I don't believe anybody's family issues at all should be brought up during the board. Anything personal, anything family related, but about any board member, I don't think should ever be allowed. But that's.
I don't think families should be brought. I think we just got to be respectful of each other. I mean, we're all elected officials up here, supposed to be setting an example for what's going on. So I think we just all got to be respectful of each other and
then that's where nepotism comes in. We do not have a strong enough nepotism policy.
Well, I think if that's the issue, maybe that should be discussed during strategic planning or something, and the whole policy be looked at.
Restructured.
Not in a personal way though.
I just think making comments like that in TV and when the light's shining on a certain person, they just want to be shined all the time. They don't want to be brought out. I just think we need to stop it. I just think we need to move forward and go on then. But I think we need to talk about it more later then.
I think maintaining the utmost professionalism and what we learned in the elected official academy of the utmost importance. We're here to do the city's business, not attack each other personally.
And that's what the people that elect us expect us to do.
Exactly.
So, okay. All right. Anything else? Stand adjourned. We'll meet back on Tuesday. All right, we'll take a break for a few minutes before we start the evaluation.